All right, welcome to another episode of Corner Memoirs of the Service Industry. This week, our guest is bartender Douglas Cameron. Douglas is a near and dear friend of my wife's. He was in our wedding party, for full disclosure. He was a bridesmaid of my wife's. But he's been bartending at one of the largest, most important gay nightclubs in West Hollywood, the Abbey, for the past 4 years. I wanted to bring him on because, us here in LA, we've heard some stories about the place and how they've been handling this pandemic. And he decided not to go back to work there due to the way that they were approaching stuff. So I wanted to get his side of the story on how he felt. Also, we talk a little bit about kind of how West Hollywood as a whole has been handling COVID-19 since it's such a bar and nightclub heavy community. They enjoy going out a lot, and I wanted to get that perspective on how things are going. But also shoot the shit on a bunch of other stuff, and I think it's a really fun episode. A touch longer than we have been doing, but definitely worth sticking around to the end. Again, the support on the show has been amazing, and I really appreciate everyone reaching out and subscribing and the feedback. It's been great. So without me rambling anymore, let's get into service, shall we? You're listening to Corner Memoirs of the Service Industry, a podcast set out to document the lives of those who work in service and hospitality. I'm Eric Chopo, and I'll be running the front of the house tonight. I'm a 22-year vet in the bar and restaurant scene and have worked and managed everything from Michelin star restaurants to dive bars and everything in between. I'm sitting down with members of our industry to talk about why they love doing what they do and share some stories along the way. Around every corner is a new story, a new hire, and a new experience. All right, Doug, how you doing?
Living the dream.
Living it, yeah.
Someone's dream.
Doug is a bartender. He's been working in West Hollywood for the past 4 years at the Abbey. Are you working now? I take it you're shut down like everybody else.
Well, I actually didn't return back to work when they did the reopening in June.
That's right.
So as far as I'm aware, they're still doing their patio service and whatnot. I haven't been over there.
Right.
I think they just opened up some new kind of like alleyway eatery. So
Okay.
From what I'm to understand, they're open from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m. every night, which is great.
Yeah, I mean the place is huge, so I can imagine that. You got to find the one thing is all these places, especially with big, huge footprints, is I'm finding like my place has a fairly big footprint, but it's by no means a club like the Abbey is, that you really are feeling a hurt when it comes to the occupancy, and you can only fit so many people outside. So I guess throwing people in an alleyway is the best course of action for them. But so you didn't go back. What are you doing now?
You're looking at it. I'm trying to figure it out. I think most of us, and especially being in Los Angeles, it's not just nightlife. It's health and beauty, fitness, production. So it's, this whole, like all of our monolithic industries have kind of collapsed. And so, I have a degree and I was looking, maybe to do a record label or a studio of types, something like that. And there's kind of nothing. So I'm figuring it out. But, I've been applying for jobs and I'd look to serve again, but I don't think I want to be bartending right now.
Yeah. Also, like from everyone I heard from bartenders, bartending now is completely different than what it once was. Like even like when you working at a high volume place like the Abbey, a club, there's still, when you work at high volume, it's kind of essentially always service, but you're still interacting with guests. Right now, everyone's kind of been designated to just a service well person where it's just they're making tickets and not really
Baristas,
having. Yeah, exactly. I don't really see the appeal in that from a former bartender. I don't know if I'd want to work in that, especially since you still have to be all like plated up with a face mask and gloves and all. It's just, if I was talking to people, that's kind of the joy of the job is to interact with customers, but and the bad part of the job too, depending on your day.
There's always like a big information desk sign like above my head. It's just, it's just not something that I wanted to go back to, especially in this environment. Especially when we weren't promised anything, and it was just kind of basically like, okay, we're open now, everyone come back, or that's that. So yeah, it's completely different. And the people who are working say that it's, it's a dumpster fire, just in general.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, they're scared. And yeah, so, I mean, but, and there is, something to be said about the new normal and adjusting, but I just don't know that that's really happening, or I don't know. I just feel like a lot of employees are being used as pawns at this point, and just not fair.
From what, as from a manager's point of view, the city and the state haven't really done a lot when it comes to guidelines. I mean, they always are revising, and it went from dine in and dine out. So you're seeing a lot of owners, I guess, kind of just figure it out on their own. And in some cases, when you have a machine, like I would assume the Abbey is a machine and it makes a lot of money for them, you start to kind of feel like, all right, I need to quickly ramp up as best I can to make that money again. Because I'd imagine they would be hurting, or they're accustomed to a certain lifestyle and accustomed to certain revenues, and they'll do whatever they can to get that up as close as possible. The sad thing with that is that it puts a lot of people at risk. And, so I understand why you didn't go back. I wouldn't still be in relationships with my owners if they were like, we have to open, figure it out,
Yeah, and that's the thing. There was no staff meeting. There were no staff meetings. We were told one thing, and then they did something totally different. And it's just, we asked to be heard. Everyone was freaking out, and then everyone just kind of got into line, which is fine. I mean, I totally get it, and I totally understand the position that owners are in. Like, they have the banks to answer to, not just a landlord or whatever. They have all the financial burden of that business, and I totally understand that. But it just seems that a lot of owners are taking it into their hands and being very callous and ignoring kind of, the overarching like systems of inequality that are in place. So it's like, we're like forced to go back to work and get sick. And a lot of times they're not offering you healthcare or anything. It's just this whole can of worms. So, yeah.
I mean, I still haven't gotten a good answer from the city or the labor board. So the idea being is, if you get sick, if you test positive for COVID, then you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Now, do I pay you for those 2 weeks? Like, do I have to pay you for those 2 weeks? Should I pay? Like, I probably should, but do I have to is more the question, because that's expensive to pay for somebody who isn't in the business earning you money. You're just paying somebody to stay home. And you also have to be shut down. So I'm shut down for 2 weeks if you test positive, if enough people test positive. So then I'm not making money. And then so again, like, there isn't anything in place to help us out for that. They just kind of say, go with God. And that's extremely frustrating to be open. So like right now for my place, we've been closed because we don't want to like half-ass it and half-ass our revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But now the building's like, all right, let's start thinking about opening soon, because they're feeling the fact that we're not making any money, so we can't be paying them anything. So I don't know. Like, it's such a clusterfuck.
It is, and it's like a cyclical back and forth, and that's why I just wish they would have like crowdsourced a little bit as far as getting ideas from everyone in the staff. Like, I was expecting a plastic fantastic fantasy when I walked in those doors. I was expecting everything to be like sectioned off, just all this like cute vinyl. There were so many ways you could go about doing this. And some gyms did, they installed like UV filtration systems and the filters and whatnot, the air ducts, and I just didn't see any of that being done. And it's just, this mad dash to make money because people were hurting, and they're using it under the guise of, oh, people need to get out of the house. We need to offer, a place for them to come and, not be depressed. And I just wish it would have, there would have been staff meetings, and they would have taken our input, seriously. And there would have been like a huge, community involved opening that, hey, it's safe, come in. Like, we did this, we talked about this, we figured out this. And still, from what I understand, it's just not good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of missed opportunities. I think we opened up too fast and missed the opportunity for bars and restaurants to get creative with the to-go concept. I saw some places really take hold of that, because if you let us stay closed for another 2 months, or at least until now, if we were all closed and we could do to-go only, and then you allow the to-go cocktails, you would allow everybody the time to research and develop a proper way to package their to-go product.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I've talked about this several times on the podcast, that I truly believe that in order for a bar and a restaurant to succeed in the coming months, they need to be really looking at their branding and how they package their to-go stuff. It can't just be like throw shit in a bag and here you go. It's like, how do we make this cute and memorable? And do we add on, do we brand like a box, and or is it just stick, like all those little bells and whistles are going to stand out to people, go, and all right, these guys are going the extra mile. And that's kind of, because you're not going to be able to, clearly people want to go back out and they're willing to risk everything. I think most recently was like La Poubelle had this went viral a little bit here because there was like,
it means trash in French, by the way. Poubelle means trash in French. I laugh every time I hear La Poubelle.
I think it was intentional. Yeah. But no, somebody drove by it like 2 weeks ago, and it was just like 100 and something people all gathered outside that place. And it was just like, look, I know we want to go out, and I've talked about on the show, like, I'm concerned that like the public trust won't be there and people will feel sketchy to go back out. Clearly that's not the case. People want to go out and they're willing to go out in droves. But if we really want to have a normal again, you have to be smart about it. You can't just, I literally had like a nightmarish dream that I had to go into a large crowded like bar or club or restaurant or something last night, and then have to like explain and take precautions down there. It's just like, it's turned me into Howard Hughes over here. I don't want to touch anything. I don't want to go anywhere.
No, I feel that. And that's the thing too. And back to the go things too. It's about sustainability as well. I think there's a huge opportunity here to kind of go back and look at like all these horribly unsustainable practices and, get sustainable. But yeah, back to your point on that's insane. And it's like, if you build it, they will come. But like, maybe have a queue or some social distancing, like, you know what I mean? You have to like think about these things, because it's like, okay, like worst case scenario, what happens if 50 people come in and sit down or like do this? Like there needs to be contingency plans and like, again, like well-researched and like crowdsourced policies and standard operating procedures in place, because people aren't going to listen, and this capitalistic mode of production that we're in right now, it's kind of a free-for-all, and we don't really have any federal, state, or local guidelines for like health, let alone like laws and stuff that are protecting businesses. And it's just, and it comes down to I guess like community responsibility, and then like owner responsibility. Us as like patrons, like when you go in to eat, like when the server's there at the table, put your mask back on for a second. It's just like simple things like that, that like, people need to like really realize that it's not just you in the world, like, and we're in a pandemic. So yeah, we need to like really get back to like the whole collectivist mindset as well, because this individualistic bullshit is killing us. Literally. It's
tough too. Like, so like Gina and I went out to dinner to a place in Highland Park called Hippo, and they were all in a parking lot and everyone was spread out. And what's nice is that it was able to be, even with the server kind of coming close to drop something off, it was still like you could still feel like, all right, I don't have to necessarily go right here because it's just a quick drop off, and they're coming at an angle where they were all trained to like not just come up and stand right here. You know what I mean? They were like,
standard operating procedures.
I'm going to come from the side, and then the ones who lingered, you put them on, but everything is so fast. But
it's fucking lingerers, man.
I enjoy it. I hope like we start having more, dine outside situations, and like new places being built or built out for that, and like having that Parisian, like everyone sits outside instead of inside, is probably, hopefully where it goes a bit. But it's funny. I don't understand how LA, with the temperatures that we have here, how patios are not the go-to for dining. And you have a rooftop, sure, and you have some patios, but they're really like, those patios are really like a porch off, it's not really a it's not outdoor seating. It's not seating on the streets. It's like, you would think we would be outside more because the weather's so nice, but no, everyone likes to go inside.
And I think that's because like it's the culture in LA too. It's like and when I first got a job in LA, I was working at Spartina on Melrose, and I remember it was so warm too in the summer, and people are so annoying when they sit on the patio. They're like, "Oh, can you turn the heater on?" And then you have to adjust it and this and that, and like, so there's like all these other things. And oh, there's a bug in my whatever. And you're like, girl, you're outside. Like, there are flies. Like, pick it out and live your fucking life. You're drinking alcohol. That's your fifth margarita, Mary. I don't think the fly is going to do anything to you. But yeah, maybe that's why. I also think that, like, but yeah, I think that there's a huge opportunity because, you know, with repression comes creation, and we're all being repressed right now as far as like what we're able to do. So, I mean, now is an opportunity for, you know, these amazing restaurants and stuff to do that. And I know La Boheme, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's right down the street on Santa Monica. They're doing the same thing, their parking lot. And like, I love that concept. You know, you just adjust traffic, whatever. But like, I love that concept because you don't feel like, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, this person or that person. You're just outside, you know, enjoying your meal. And I hope to see more of that. I think we will. Yeah.
I mean, you have to have like some sort of contingency plan moving forward for the long haul, because like, all right, absolutely. So we're hearing talks that maybe in a month to 6 weeks, we'll be able to let people back inside the restaurants. Cool. That's fine. That obviously helps revenues because it helps cover counts, but you know, how long until that I can actually serve people? Like, there's all these little steps. Like, when are people going to be able to like pack like sardines a bar again? Because that's how the bar makes the most money, is when
absolutely
you're at capacity and you're packed. Especially like a high volume place, like a place like the Abbey, or, you know, any of those clubs on Santa Monica. Like, how they will survive is, how do we get as many people into this place as safely as possible? And hopefully more places are taking it more seriously than it seems like the Abbey was taking it. But yeah, that's a tough one, because then like, how do you do that safely? How do you, you know, I don't know if you can.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I wish them the best, and it's nothing, you know, personal or anything. I'm just, you know, I just, you know, there were options for them to take and they didn't. And, you know, some, you know, employees did get sick, and it's just an unnecessary risk. And I mean, also, like, you know, that plan is to say that there's no surge or second wave or third wave or whatever. And I mean, I think at this point right now, we're all just kind of like waiting to see how these next, you know, 3 to 4 weeks are going. Like, I mean, everyone's unemployment's like getting low and stuff. So like, I it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks coming up, but I mean, I'm hopeful. And again, I wish them nothing but the best. I hope they do, you know, figure it out safely. And I'm just disappointed because, you know, they're monolithic in Los Angeles, and they had a unique opportunity to present customers with an amazing experience, and they just didn't do that. And, you know, that's why I'm just not associated with it any longer. Watch me get sued over this. I'm just kidding.
No. I mean, look, when you're leading an industry, like, they are the pinnacle for the Santa Monica, you know, like, gay club scene. And they I think you're right in the sense that they missed an opportunity to really lead the way and innovate. Instead, they just said, here's some duct tape and let's just be open again. And I mean, to a lesser extent, that's exactly why I left, you know, canceled my gym membership, because my local gym, they were hounding me for like a payment, which sucks during a pandemic. But I said, okay, so what are your protocols for all this? And I wasn't satisfied with what they were saying. I'm like, how many people? Well, we're allowed, what they say? It was like, they were allowed 60%, or they let 60% of people in. I go, okay, well, how many people is that? Because you're a fairly large place. And it was like, oh, that's like 300 people. I'm like, no, that's way too many people. I don't care what it says. There's way too many people to be in a gym, because it's just like, there's no, like, they could have done things with like the reservation, with the time limits. There was no time limit. You could be there all fucking day if you wanted to be. Sweating
and that's another thing too. And I was like, well, how do we enforce, you know, like, if there's people waiting, if there's a queue, like, because it's dangerous to allow people to wait outside too. And I mean, and like, that's like, and also like, one of the dangers of having something like that open in a pandemic, like Disney World, for instance, you know, it just existing and being open is going to have people coming from all over the United States who don't have any money, who are going to spend all that money. And then, you know, you're setting up like an environment for people to kind of like congregate irresponsibly. And, you know, and that's just kind of how this stuff keeps getting extended. So I just had a brain too. But yeah, I'm just hoping that this doesn't go on like, you know, too much longer. But like, you know, I'm worried about Los Angeles, you know, looking for jobs, serving bartending positions, and there's just not a lot. Like, and I mean, you know, not just for me, but it's, you know, about the owners and, you know, other people who are working. It's sad. And I just hope that, you know, something changes soon.
Yeah, I'm with you right there, because, you know, it's, just doing simple math is kind of, you can see how people are hurting, and like we're a lower tier, like check average place. We're a pub, so we can only kind of get capped at a certain point. And then it's just kind of like, all right, well, can we fill the numbers on the low end, and then even in that so that's kind of where we're at. But I'm with you. I'm more and more hopeful, because I just think that I'm seeing a need for people to want to go out. So if you can offer a safe experience, at least I think you're going to have customers to some extent. It's just whether or not the numbers work at this point. And I think that's the burden for a lot of people, is to try and make just the numbers work. But all right. That was depressing. I'm depressed now.
Well, no, and then right. I mean, story of my life. It is what it is. But I was reading an article about it was, I don't know if it was China or whatever. They were talking about post pandemic. I'm pretty sure it was like Wuhan or whatever. They were talking about March. I think most of their pandemic was like coming to a head. It was like slowing down, and they started reopening places. And they're like, well, it took like 2 or 3 months for people to really like get comfortable to come back. And I just don't know that that's going to happen in the United States because of just how protocols are going.
Yeah.
If there was like, all those mandates and stuff was followed, then, absolutely. But I mean, reading that, like, it's just going to take some time for people to get comfortable too. I for one, just am not.
I am with you. And I also think the problem is that this became like politicized. So now it's like, if you wear a mask, you're a liberal. And if you don't wear a mask, you're a Republican. And that's just the dumbest thing ever. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, you should just wear one, because, it makes sense. And then anyone citing that they said that you shouldn't wear one at one point isn't actually understanding what science is, that it's an ever evolving, changing thing that you learn more each day. But without getting too political about it, but I'm with you. I think that we're going to have to kind of get things back down to like 1% levels before we can really start seeing things back to normal. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just going to be slapping shit together and hoping for the best. And if that's the case, you're going to see a lot of old places close down and new places have to pop back up. And I mean, there's always going to be jobs in this industry. It's just how much are you willing to risk, to work it. And I think I understand why you didn't go back to work. Everyone's got to make that own choice. And if it's not something that's, doesn't jive with you, then by all means, you have to be a little bit selfish,
Yeah. And I mean, I'm still glad I made that decision. Financially, I will always be okay. I'm resourceful. I have enough experience in doing it. But, I just didn't want to go back to a job that it didn't feel like home, and I just wasn't happy, regardless of the place, regardless of who was there, whatever. It was time to move on. And I'm still glad that I did, Yeah. I will see what happens in the future. But again, I'm hopeful that I will find something, whether it be another industry or whatever. It's like a springboard,
Yeah. I mean,
using 2020 as.
That's what I mean. Look, I pivoted into this, and I figured, 20 something years of, this job, I have a unique perspective on it. And
absolutely. And yeah. Then, I love that you're doing this.
To that perspective, stories, that's my segue. I'm not good at it yet, but at least I got us there. All right. High volume bars, club bars you've been working in. You had to seen some shit over the years. Do you have any like stories that pop out of this is the craziest shit I've ever seen, or
there's like so many like stupid stories, because it was always just an exercise in doing the most, because drugs, everyone's on drugs now. So and it just depends on what they get. I mean, one story that will always stick out to me, I was working a happy hour shift, and after 6 hours of happy hour, you're just kind of ready to go. And I was like looking for a manager to cash out, and there's always something going on because, high volume, ton of people, drugs. Yeah. They're like, give me 1 second. Some girl just bit somebody on the back of the head and made them bleed. I was like, of course. I was like, take all the time you need. Somebody threw an orange at me because I forget what I said. Somebody was like grabbing in the fruit, and I was like, please stop me. Threw an orange at me. It's just, there's so many stupid stories. I wish there was there's probably going to be one that sticks out right now in a few minutes, but those are the two I remember.
So I know that you worked with my wife at Mari. That was more restaurant and you were serving there, right?
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, you know, there's a lot of money in high volume bartending in a club, and there's a lot of money in a high dining experience, fine dining restaurant experience. Do you have have you over the years, is there one preference that you have? Like clearly it's, you know, you can turn your mind off a little bit at a club and you're a little bit more on. I'm just curious if like over the years, if you've leaned in one direction or the other, and if so, why?
So usually I feel like I like to serve more. I usually kind of do both, but I feel like now at this point, I'd like to serve more. I'm super efficient with my time, and I'm really good at consolidation and like my science background. I remember menus, and I was trained at this place in San Francisco. The menu changed like 4 times a day, and it was seasonal. So literally every day there could be a new dish on the menu, and it was awesome experience. And then I just picked it up. So I love serving because I like make that connection with people. I usually just like talk shit, whatever. Because I know the menu. I don't really have any horror stories because I know the menu. I know allergies, and I know how to talk to people. So
Right.
I feel like ideally I'd like to be doing that rather than just kind of like behind a bar and like, you know, because you're just kind of like a target for people to like talk to about like, I know that sounds kind of bad, but sometimes you just like want to be left alone, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to do my side work and I feel like Billy Big Mouth over here is yelling whatever. And I'm like, I don't have time for it.
Yeah. I enjoyed serving a lot, and it's kind of the same thing, is because like you'd always can escape in the back if you needed to. When you're bartending, you're always there and you're always on. And if you do ignore someone, they're really pissed, and they're like, not that I ignored people all that much, but like you can't really have, even if you're at the POS and like pretending to enter and shit, and you're really just on your phone and just checking something for a second, like, you know, the girlfriend texts you, or, you know, your mom called you twice, or there's news pop, you know, you're just trying to like
notifications,
keep a little bit of tether to the world. Cause when you're back behind the bar, it pretty much is like tunnel vision the whole time. You're just back there. So it's nice to have those moments for yourself. But, so you worked with my wife at Mari. Topher was on my second episode, and he mentioned that when they let my wife go, when they let Gina go, that he left very shortly after. And I don't remember. Were you the same? Or, I mean, there's only 2 people she talks to from that place out since then. It's you and Topher. So clearly she went to work there to meet you 2, because you guys are still very much in your lives.
I love that.
And you were a bridesmaid for my wife at her wedding. So
it was a gorgeous wedding.
You know what? It's a sidetrack. Thank you for being in her life and being able to fill that role, because a very dear friend of mine is a female, and I wanted her to be in the wedding, and it worked, because then Gina had you, and I could have her as a groomsman.
I remember that. It was, thank you guys for letting me be part of that. It was such an awesome special day, and like I'm glad we all met. Yeah, it's crazy. It is like fate, because we all hated that job, and like we all still talk, and we're all fucking bomb at what we do too. You know what I mean? It's like we all could literally. And I'm hoping what happens is, eventually down the road, like the 4 of us like own a place or something. That's my awesome goal as far as because I mean, we would fuck it up in like the best way possible.
I know Topher and I have talked about it several times and bounced ideas off each other, but he's
a phenomenal bartender too. Like just his recipes, everything. He's just so sweet and cute. Like how could you not like Topher? Like
I know he's got the whole package, that kid, except for his emo hair. He needs to get rid of the emo hair.
I love the emo hair though. Let's braid it. Put little beads in it.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think that like I'm curious to see how the industry moves when it comes to like high volume places, because I mean, I'm curious. What is like from people that who are still at Abbey, is it just like business as usual down in West Hollywood, or all these bars still like it's like the last dying breath of the club bar is in West Hollywood. You don't really have too many clubs left in Hollywood, at least pre-COVID. There weren't too many. Customers aren't really like out there searching for clubs.
Like Avalon,
I mean, there's still like the big nightclub, like Avalon's a nightclub. Like it's like big shit DJ comes in. It's a 10,000 people in that place, or 5,000 people.
Yeah, but a lot though. Still,
it's not like early 2000 Hollywood where every bar was a club essentially.
I wish.
from people who, like when you walk the streets out there, I know you live close in the neighborhood or you have friends.
I'm so close. Yeah.
Is it just like it was pre-COVID? Is everyone just still like, I'm just curious about just like that vibe out there. Are people still wanting to just hang out on a patio at 2:00 in the afternoon in West Hollywood, listening to music blaring? Like, is that still something that's happening during all this?
Ish, but like it's really sad when you walk down there. It's like really only the Abbey, I think High Tops and Beaches and Rocco's are open. So it's like 4 out of like the 8 or 9 bars.
Okay.
I know Flaming Shadows closed down permanently recently, which is super sad. And Gym Bar as well. So no, WeHo looks like it, it has been super affected by COVID. And I know the Abbey is struggling, and it really does break my heart regardless of, like whatever happened. Because, those are, I've worked with them for 4 years and I don't ever want to see, somebody suffer. But no, it's really sad. And like from my friends working and people out there say it's kind of a dumpster fire as far as like, just, how busy they are and stuff. So I don't really know. I mean, I think that it's like steady, and some people, will stick their heads in there and like, say it's busy. I mean, I think there's always going to be that like small group of people who just like, like the regular types.
Yeah.
I think that, and I think, I don't really know what to think as far as like how busy they are, because I haven't like been in there, but it seems like they're doing okay. But definitely WeHo has been severely affected. It's really sad to walk through there. But there's definitely some of the shenaniganery, but
I mean, I figure that the community would, I think some of the older generations are getting a slight flashback with the 80s and 90s with the AIDS epidemic, because they understand what a pandemic is within the community, and then you juxtapose that with some of the younger kids who are just, a lot of millennials and Gen Zs are just reportedly, I don't have experience, I'm not trying to stereotype a whole generation, but seem to be more selfishly inclined in their motivation.
Absolutely.
From someone who's not part of that world, I am aware that I'm sure there's probably 2 schools of thought of what's been going on. You have an entire generation that paved the way and dealt with this once and are seeing that
no federal help again.
Yeah.
Reagan did nothing. I digress.
Yeah.
Just like Trump.
It's true. It's just one of those things where like it's knowing you and having a couple other people I know who work down in that area and live down in that area, I have to imagine there's a little bit of conflict between generations there, because you see all these young kids and they just seem like they don't give a shit, and they're like, you go out to Florida and look at all that, they're doing spring break like it was nothing. I'm like, you guys are fucking like,
I swear they're still doing spring break. I don't know. Yeah. And no, I think there is. I mean, there's definitely that generational gap. I don't know that I have. Well, yeah, one of my best friends is like 43. So he's, was that Gen X right before us, whatever, because I'm more of a millennial. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think there's a huge disconnect. I think a lot of the kids out here like don't necessarily have their family close to them. So I think they're like they feel more justified in going out, because they're like, oh, if I get it, it won't hurt me, but I don't want to give it to my like grandma and mom. And a lot of people are justifying that by like, oh, it's a new normal and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's just, muddied waters, but no, definitely. And in Fire Island at the end of June, I don't know if you saw those videos, but like literally COVID positive people like were on the beach and like in our community. And a lot of, especially like, like I'm only 30, but like I have that history. I have a queer studies minor. So I learned like a lot of like history, like in depth of the HIV AIDS era and all of that. And just, the queer liberation movement, all of the, what we've accomplished. And it definitely, it definitely rings, there's some similar bells. And I think most of us are just like pissed. We're like, come on guys, like cut it out. Like, wear a mask, do whatever. But like, we're just kind of like hurting ourselves at this point, Yeah. But I mean, it's not just the gay community. It's like everything. And like, it's more like younger straight people, like, going to college parties and stuff. And, I think some of like, it's a mess, but we're speaking out and holding people accountable, and that's all you can do. And I mean, just hope that people grow and we as a community grow. That's all you can hope for,
I mean, the only reason I bring it up is because it's like, obviously it's not just the gay community, it's everyone that's affected by COVID, and then everyone was also affected by the AIDS epidemic. When it came in, it was just disproportionately at a time, within the gay community. So I gotta imagine there's lessons to be learned, and I feel like some people down there are just like pulling their hair out, like just pay attention to what I'm saying. Like, we'll get through this. Just like take precautions and have some self accountability and be communicative with people and
don't be a dick.
Start a dialogue, and then most importantly, don't be a dick. So
dialogues are always huge. Yeah.
Like
the best thing we can do. And like, that's the best thing that's come out of this, really, because, it just really held up a mirror with like all of our societal issues too, like not to get too political, but like, and that's why I'm still hopeful in this, even though, and today's it's a rough day for me. Like, I woke up and I'm like, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
But, I mean, we can't let like that, like pessimism and like, a shitty worldview get us down. Like we just have to have hope,
Yeah. I mean, I think communication's a big part of it. Like, and then also just self accountability, like, especially within our industry, I think that they're not mandating or not pushing and suggesting hard enough for us to all get tested. I know Gina and I get tested every 2 weeks, and it's not like we're out and about and doing shit. It's just like a peace of mind. It's like knowing confidently that, okay, I've been tested, I'm in the clear. So then if I do go in around people, that I'm not feeling like I'm putting anybody at risk.
Absolutely. No. And I think that's really smart. And I appreciate that you guys do that. I'm going to go pretty soon. I have to figure out where I can go. My insurance has been all messed up. Now I'm back with Kaiser, so I think I have to do it through the county. But yeah, I've been tested twice now. And yeah, I mean, the testing situations, it's another story, but it's all messed up. But and I think the businesses should, not even if they're paying for it, but the county pays for it. So it's like, hey, I need everyone to get like tested by this date. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, it's another thing. And like, and that was another thing too. There's just so many like avenues and little tiny little policy things, and just, like you said, self accountability that people can be doing to like, accelerate us getting out of this pandemic.
Yeah. It's just, not to necessarily go back to too much. It was just that I remember hearing people that like, like people I know and people who my wife know, and like people who we wanted to do stuff. And then we asked them just like, have you been tested lately? And they're like, oh, I know my body. I'm fine. I'm safe. I'm fine. And I go, that sounds so much like when I was dating back in the day, and it would be like, oh no, I know myself. I'm safe. We don't have to wear a condom. Like, it's such a bullshit line. It's just like, you don't know, get tested. It's like, if somebody just was like, I've never had an STD test in my entire life. You can trust me. I know my body. I'm all safe. I don't trust you. I don't know you. Like, it's the same thing.
Even a little bit.
It's just so it's like something that's even more. It's just like, imagine going on a date and you could catch an STD by sitting across from them and them talking to you. That's what we're essentially dealing with.
It's essentially what it is. And that's how I feel too. So it's like, if you're not going to get a test or whatever, at least be communicative, or at least like, don't be still. Like, I don't know. Everyone's got an opinion these days, and good Lord, none of them are good.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. I just think that like, it's, for us to kind of get back to any sense of normal, it's just that, just be smart about it, man. Just like, if you haven't been tested, say you haven't been tested, and maybe don't go out for a little while. And even if you're like, that's why, like, even tell Gina, I go, all right, so we saw somebody last week, so maybe we don't see anybody be around people for like a week and a half or two. At least like there's a quarantine there.
Right. And then that way, like, if you do have symptoms or whatever, I know. And it's just like, because when you do get tested, they're like, well, what if I'm positive? Oh, we just kind of quarantined for 2 weeks. So it's like, again, with like no plan really or anything. You're just like, well, do I take like vitamin C? Or they're like, yeah, all that. It's fine.
Yeah, take zinc. It's fine. What? I mean, I take zinc anyways.
Yeah, same. And I can't. My favorite thing is like, well, if we don't go outside, we're not going to get exposed to the things, and our immune systems are going to suffer. Meanwhile, my friend who said that just got strep throat, and I was like, oh, how's that going for you? How's that going? I was like, well, when you get exposed to stuff like that, you don't get an immunity, you fucking get it, like, yeah. So God bless America.
I used to joke like, one of the ways to build up an immunity to something is like what the guy's referring to is being introduced to it in small doses, right? So I always used to joke when, a report came out that arsenic was in cigarettes. I go, well, I guess I'm immune to arsenic because I smoke enough of these things over my lifetime. So I don't have anything.
Probably a little bit true though. Yeah, you probably would be able to suffer like a bit of a higher dose of arsenic than most people.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I was a pack and a half a day smoker for 15 years.
My buddy Brian, he's got like the worst anxiety. I love him to death. That he's just constantly chain smoking and working on cars. I'm like, you're so Michigan. He's like the sweetest guy. We just spent like 6 weeks together. But yeah, I'm like, you need to stop smoking, bro.
Yeah, I tell Gina that all the time. She's gonna listen to this and she's gonna go, damn it, and she's gonna come running in the room. But, But yeah, all right. So I get it. World's a little bit crazy right now, but what are you leaning into? I know it's kind of every day. It's like there's a slight panic attack. I feel the same way. I'm feeling it differently now that I'm trying to figure out how to open and make us money. What are you leaning into?
Awesome,
what is kind of getting you through the day to day? As you are out there hitting the pavement trying to find something to do.
Honestly, music. Music's always been a huge passion of mine. I've been learning to mix. So my whole day always is just kind of spent listening to music and relaxing. So I would love to get into that, but there's no clubs opening. So right now I'm just kind of practicing. And then also any comedy, working on my stuff, laughing and shit, watching TV. I've been trying to write a little bit, but my productivity just been way down. And I'm trying to change that now with a little bit of again, self-accountability. But yeah, and then friendships, but music and really just comedy. So watching things, producing, writing, whatever, just being involved. But I would love to have a big project right now. I haven't really quite thought of something to write and film, but I'm trying to do a short film or something just because I love having all of that time taken, setting the scene, filming, and then editing. 'Cause I do it all myself. I just need a better camera, but yeah, projects and stuff like that. Just yeah, mostly music.
What
about you?
Well, it's this, and it's just trying to find different ways to kind of get this out there. That's for sure. Right now I'm in menu design mode. I look at the opportunity to open as a reopen and kind of I don't have a head chef. We got rid of a head chef before all this, and we just kind of have a head cook who kind of takes orders from
head chefs are constantly
I don't need an ego in that kitchen telling me how to make something. I'm going to tell you how the guests like it. And so the owner, the owner and I are kind of coming up with our own menu of what we think will work. So that's kind of the big one,
That's awesome though. But that's really smart, Eric. I like that.
And it's also, thank you. And it's also just the notion of to par down a menu, to kind of all right, we're only going to make X amount of dollars. So how do we maximize X amount of dollars with a low food cost? But,
and then also, not letting ingredients go bad and stuff. So simplicity is always best. Yeah. People want to think that they want options, but they don't. They want to be told what they want. So when you get a menu that has 3 things on it, you're going to be happy picking one of those 3 things.
Yeah. And then, it's find the options where you can and upsell items like sides.
Yeah,
that's how I was always all right, if a plate has mashed potatoes on it, then sell mashed potatoes as a side. If you're not doing it, you're wasting $6 on it.
Absolutely.
You're losing out on $6. So it's
charge $4 for a slice of bacon.
Yeah, exactly.
People love bacon.
It's those little things that I'm working on right now. Thankfully Gina's still been working through all this. So there's some stability in our lives. I've been enjoying my time off, to be honest. It's not that I haven't been. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't enjoying not having to wake up and do anything in particular. But, now I have to kind of ramp real quickly back into it because it looks like in a month, we're going to try to open back up and take another go of it. Hopefully by then I can let people dine inside. Because my pub's kind of set up where I'm only going to really sacrifice I'm going to sacrifice most spots at the bar if I'm allowed to see people at the bar, but I'm only really going to sacrifice maybe 2 or 3 tables inside my pub based on all the diagrams. Because it doesn't have to be 6 feet apart if they're seated in a certain way. So when you're seated, if you and I are seated across from each other, we can be within 4 feet of the table next to us. So 2 tops can be within 4 feet.
Yeah.
And then 4 tops have to be within 6 feet. And then the one that makes the least amount of sense to me is that if we were in a 4 top, 4 people and our backs were to another 4 top, that the people whose backs to each other can literally be within 2 feet of each other. And I go, how is that? How? Because our backs we're not coughing on each other, speaking at each other. But what's to stop somebody from just going like this? And coughing,
right.
You know what I mean? I just don't understand how that's in the health department's eyes is a good call, but
I get what you're saying. Yeah. And no, and that goes back to their guidelines and stuff not making any sense, because it's kind of a 360 degree area, you'd think, with the plumes and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
and then they want us to upgrade our HVAC systems, not us particularly, but everyone. And I go, with what are you going to give us grant money to do that? Because that shit's expensive.
Right.
Like, yeah,
I can't imagine how, because like I said, like gyms, and I mean, I know the airlines have done like the UV filters and stuff and like that, but like I again, that's got to, you know, cost thousands of dollars. And, you know, when these places have just been paying rent for, you know, months without being open, it's like, who has the capital?
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be a good thing to like put in grants. And I know in the CARES Act, they should have had, like, I don't know what they gave to whatever, but again, like a huge chunk of that should have been going to retrofitting businesses to get us through this faster.
I mean, it was just like the notion early on is like, do I have to put plexiglass at the bar, which it turns out you kind of have to do. And I go, all right, well, where do I get the plexiglass? Or just go to Home Depot and buy it and makeshift myself. And okay, now all these companies propped up and started making it, but they're expensive. So how do I,
right.
You know, and if I did, like, we didn't get around to PPP, at the beginning. So it's like, where do we, it's just got to come out of pockets at this point.
Oh, you guys didn't get any of the PPP? Yeah.
Not in that
and
first
that's another
round.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
this whole thing, I know like but yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like, there's like a mini industry that's popping up to like retrofit these restaurants, but it's only for like probably contracting companies who have the capital to, do that.
Yeah.
So
like anything that's new right now is going to be like the most top of the line, safest, cleanest like bar or restaurant that opens. But all of us who've been open for years are just kind of like duct taping solutions together and like, trying to figure it out.
Which if it's safe, it's safe, And I mean, like it could literally just be like vinyl hanging from like the ceiling to separate everything, and you just wipe them after everything with bleach.
Yeah, we have some privacy wall dividers, like old changing ones down in our basement that we're going to start using for to kind of separate people. Get creative with it. I think Magnolia House in Pasadena, since they're all outdoors, it's just like they put like faux greenery behind everyone's table so that's separated, but it looks like a little garden and it's like looks cute and nice and stuff like that. We'll figure it out. Like that's the beauty of it, is that there's always room for trying to figure shit out. Like, if it didn't work today, you'll do something new tomorrow. Same thing with like designing a menu or designing cocktails. If it didn't sell this week, we'll try something new next week. And I mean, I
love that. Like a lot of people don't do that, a lot of like, you have to like kind of roll with the punches, especially now, because I mean, your customer base is going to give you your business model,
and then also I'm trying to check out like a new POS system for a new contactless. And like my mom, my mom went out, I got to tell the story. My mom went out somewhere in DC or Bethesda, where she lives, Maryland. And everything about it was contactless. The guy came over with like a QR code, so just open your phone app and thing. Here's the menu, and she's like, "Great." And then they're being really distant throughout the whole meal. And she's like, "This is really great." And then it came time to pay the bill. She goes, "So do you have like a chip insert, or how does the bill?" He goes, "No, I just need your credit card." So she has to hand the server her credit card. So now this guy has to touch, presumably my mom's not germ filled, but a germ filled credit card. Then he goes to the back like he always does, swipes the card, brings a dirty check presenter book, uses his pen, puts it like we always used to do, and knows I'm using all these words like dirty because I never thought of him as fucking dirty before.
Yeah, I mean, it's soiled. Yeah.
And so like now she has to do it, and thankfully she had Purell and everything. And I go, that's stupid, because I've been out and a lot of these newer POSs, they must be using Aloha or like Micros or something. Yeah. But like a lot of the new ones, they have same thing. Scan a QR code, fill out your credit card information, put the thing in and send it out. It's like I know Toast does it really well, but yeah, I can't believe like they were so like great until the end. Like they dropped the ball. They just
kind of like shit the bed at the
like, come on, guys.
Oh no. But and that's like, but that is like a good, and like, I mean, I'm glad that they'll probably get there. They probably that's probably the last step of like, oh, like this is super gross. Like we have to figure out a new way.
Yeah.
What POSs are you looking at? Like,
so right now I've signed us up with a company called Union POS. Union POS. The reason why I signed them up is I look, everyone right now and their mother is coming out with a handheld device that you just insert a chip, and
I use one at 71 above. Yeah,
right. And then you don't even have to insert, you just give it to them, they insert it, and then it's contactless, right?
It's kind of a nightmare though. They don't know how to use them. It's kind of cute, but I usually set it up for them. But
so the company I'm working with, Union, used to be a company called Tabbed Out, which was a mobile app that allowed a customer to start a tab behind the bar through micros, and then they could close out their tab from their phone. So they would still interact with the bartender, and then if they had the tab on their phone, they could just pay with their phone, and they could leave whenever they wanted. And the beauty of it was their credit card's attached to it. So if they did leave and now it's 2:00 and they didn't pay, the servers or bartenders could close out those tabs. They pivoted.
Do they get a gratuity though, like an autograt?
Yeah,
18. Usually, that's usually what I have. Yeah.
So they pivoted into a full-fledged POS, and then when COVID struck, they kind of reamped their tabbed out to be an ordering system as well. So the whole menu's there, and the guests can essentially order from their phone.
That's awesome.
And then they can close out from their phone without any interaction with a server. So now all I have to do is like put physical numbers on all of my tables in a creative way, or label them so that a guest knows what table they're at. And then they can go, and all it has to be is a manager or a bartender or maybe a server can just go over, confirm the order with the guest, and then it'll be right out. And then all it is running the food and clearing the food. And you're not having to, stand over somebody's shoulder while they're ordering and while they're paying. And the same thing, the bartenders, servers can close it out. And I'm hoping guests are okay with this, because it is more fast casual than I think a lot of people are used to. But I'm planning for the future in the sense that it doesn't need to be this way. I can still have a server if you want. I can still walk you through the menu if you want, but it allows this opportunity for anyone can come in and realize that they don't have to talk or touch anybody and still have a great meal and a great cocktail. And
awesome. And then, like, would you just have like one runner and one server then, just taking care of the whole place?
Yeah, I mean, I would have a runner and then like 2 bussers, and then I would and then I would essentially work a floor, and I'd have 2 bartenders, and if I'd cross train them to serve. I was trying to get rid of servers at that place to begin with.
That would make sense then, just to have bartenders and a runner, like, because I mean, as a bartender, like, we do it all anyway. Like, I'd rather, like, if I just have my section, I'd rather bus, do my own shit, run my own, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm not having to tip anyone out. But it's not even about that. Like, I just like to have, access to all of my things. And I think everyone should be cross-trained. Like, if you're a bartender, you should know how to like do everything but cook. And I mean, I don't know how to cook, but but yeah, I mean, like, that just makes the restaurant run better. And then what also, like, it gives you an opportunity too to create cute little themes if you wanted to, for like the table numbers, so people know exactly what table they're at,
And then
you
also
do like so many things with it. Yeah,
allows you to run promotions through it, and also signing up. You don't even have to sign up to the service. Using the POS allows me to build profiles on guests, and it allows me to, if like, say you went into my bar 5 times within, a month or something like that, it knows all of your favorite drinks that you order. So it knows, I mean, granted, any good bartender will remember these things, but it allows me as a manager who may not know you've been in here 5 times because you come in, happens to be a point where I'm putting out a fire or whatever. I can look and go, okay, well, this person's been in here this amount of times. They've ordered this amount of stuff. And so, okay, now I can go, all right, well, I'm going to comp this and comp that. And it's more, instead of sending you something you don't want, I'm taking care of something that you normally do like. And
absolutely, yeah.
And also, if there's something along the lines of food that you order and we have a new dish, I can curate. I just think that before COVID, it was all about data. Our world is about data. Every ad campaign is targeted to you based on your data. Data is king. And in the restaurant industry, it's just as important. Like, as much as information I can collect on my guests, the better experience they will end up having when they're a repeat customer. And the better chance I have to make somebody a repeat customer, because I know exactly what they like and what they don't like based on what they order and don't. Things like having a gateway from, signing into the Wi-Fi and just collecting email addresses allows you to target guests and see when they come in. Look, your phone's doing it anyways. At least you're getting a more enjoyable experience at a bar.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's the difference between like good and bad data mining. But it's also too about like anticipating guest needs. I mean, that's the whole name of the game when you're in hospitality. And I've been like fortunate enough to have some amazing like training. And it's just, that like regular that comes in, she's had a rough day. You heard her like, oh, I'm running 15 minutes late. And then just having her favorite wine waiting for her, when she sits down.
Exactly.
Because, you just know. And so that's what's also great about like data too, and like
Yeah.
keeping these tabs on these people. It's like, and then you also like it because it's like formulaic. Like certain people like certain things, and then if certain people has a certain attribute of this certain person likes a certain thing, chances are they're gonna like something similar. You know, like I like to say I'm like diagnosing palettes as well. Like what do you normally like? You know, yeah. And that's another great thing about the service industry.
I also think it's just that a special touch, like we've talked about.
Absolutely.
I've talked about other ones about sending things out to people. Now imagine you've had zero interaction with me, the manager, and you've ordered, you know, mezcals every single time, and I pull it up. Like I've recognized your face, but we've never really interacted more than like I said hi or something to you, or said good to see you again or whatever. But I don't really pay attention to what you're drinking, but I pull your info up on the POS. I say, okay, this guy likes mezcal. So say next week I get a brand new bottle in. Guess who's getting a free try of it, right? You know, and then that just as a customer, you're like, man, they really give a shit about me. They know what I like, you know. And now the whole point is I'm giving you a more expensive option in hopes that you stop drinking the well and start drinking the, you know, the more expensive one.
Right. What is that, like commodity fetishism? Like the well, not really, but yeah, no, I like that a lot. And like, and that's, you know, that's the name of the game. It's like customer satisfaction. And like people like you and I, like we legit enjoy doing that. Like I love seeing like a happy look on someone's face because like it makes me think about me when I've had that experience, or, you know, I've had a shitty day and somebody's like come through with some like good food or alcohol. And yeah, I mean, the name of the game is, you know, service and hospitality. And, you know, that's what we're doing.
Especially since we're going to be losing a bit of it with the contactless and you know, you know, looking at a menu on your phone and like you want to try to find a way in the months ahead to, you know, still add some customer service to a hands-off approach and knowing what customers are ordering and enjoying, I think is going to be very beneficial moving forward. So that's why I went with that company over some other ones.
You said tabbed out, right?
So they're called Union POS right now.
Union POS. They were previously tabbed out.
And so they have an app called Tabbed Out Again, which essentially is a pickup. It can be used as a pickup app. So I could be at home and I could order.
It's really smart of them
for pickup. And then I'm also in the establishment. I can order from my phone and not have to deal with anybody.
Because that would probably cut out the middleman as far as like delivery is concerned, like for Lyft and Uber. So that could be like I don't know how it would be for tips, but it could be a good way for someone to make money or whatever, or I don't know.
Yeah. And then the idea too is I've mentioned several times, I'm going all in on service charges. There's going to be there's going to be automatic gratuity, and I'm going to just, if you want to call it hazard pay or whatever, just know that the game's changed. You have to tip. And you have to tip on top of my service charge. And I won't put like an 18% service charge, but it would be like a 5% on there just to kind of go, you have to, like, you know, and then also through the app, there's going to be good, but anyways, like I'm still trying to figure that out right now and make sure, because that's a change of steps of service. It's a change in how we do things. So I have to retrain how I've always been on the floor and have always treated customers because the time's completely changed. So I too have to change before I train anybody else. So, all right, we're coming to the end. I have a segment on the show, Doug, and it's, I figure we'll get a good story out of you. I have a segment that I end the show with where I ask my guests, have they ever shat where they ate before? Implying, have you dated within the workplace? And if so, are there any horror stories, crazy escapades, ex-boyfriends coming in to the place you worked at, wielding any craziness that might have happened due to dating within the workplace that you care to share with the audience at home?
No, actually, but I just remembered an amazing story that you're going to get a kick out of.
Okay.
No, I usually don't, like, which is weird because like you'd think I'd shit where I eat, but I don't. Like, I guess I haven't like had the opportunity. I mean, like I've hooked up with a few coworkers here and there, but it's been like fine. I'm trying to think of who I hooked up with at the Abbey. If I did, it's been so long. Oh, you won. Yeah, there's a few, but yeah, anyway, but this story you're going to love.
Okay.
So it was like probably 2015. I was in Ann Arbor still. I was working at Necto, which is like their big nightclub there. It was the Gay Night. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. The owner, Scott, was amazing. I'm pretty sure he still owns it. I don't know what they're doing, but they were a phenomenal family. Like everything was like, it was just done. It was organized. They were like nice. Anyway, I'm working. It's still winter. It's probably like January, February, and I'm about ready to leave for San Francisco. I had like 6 weeks to like get ready, and I was probably in like week 4, so I had like 2 weeks left. And we didn't serve we didn't serve tap water. We sold bottled water for $1, or if somebody asked, we just gave it to them for free. It was just a policy, and that's what we had to say. And then so like this girl comes up and she's like pretty drunk. She's like wearing glasses, and she's like, I want a water. I'm like, oh, our policy states like that we don't, give tap water. But, and then before I even like, mention, she is like, I want a water now. And she was like, and I was like, ma'am, like, I told you, like, chill. She like slaps my shaker off of my bar and like it goes like, and I've already had it, I've got like 2 weeks left. Like I'm already over it. So I was like, are you thirsty? Do you want some water? I took the nozzle, I put my finger over, I just hosed her down. And she's like trying to yell at me and she's like gurgling. She's like, and I'm, and then I realized I was like, oh shit, I just did this. So I like stopped, and then like her friends started like apologizing to me. My bartenders came up to me. They're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I ended up not getting in trouble though, like at all. I don't even know if they don't know, but that's still like one of my favorite moments because she was such an asshole. Like, and I was about to give her water and she was just like, no. Knocked my stuff off, and I was like, you want to knock my shaker off? I was like, you thirsty? Yeah. So it's like
out of Coyote Ugly, but instead of just dealing with a person just asking for water, you're dealing with a annoying drunk proto Karen, like the pre Karens from back in the day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she was a proto Karen, definitely a proto Karen.
Yeah,
floating around. But I just remember because I've never like I just lost it in that moment. But yeah, I wish it was relatable to. I wish I had like a good like shit where you eat story, because like that would be awesome if you like kind of like hook up with somebody and then like they burn your house down or something. I don't know.
The funny thing is I say this all the time and ask this of my guests, but I don't have any like horror stories from doing it. Like I've had some interesting stories, but I don't think anything of like that's because we were working together that it ended bad. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any of those. Like it's for the most part. I have a couple that have been kind of awkward afterwards, but yeah, I don't have anything that's over the top, and I don't expect any guest to have it, but I figured I'd ask because when that guest does, it will be interesting, but who knows?
It's a good question though.
I'm going back and forth on it. It seems to be getting a lot of like good responses from people, but at the same time, it makes me weary in the world that we live in, where like nobody can take a fucking joke anymore, and I think somebody's going to eventually get offended because, somebody said cock and pussy on the show, and then I get it out of the way now. But I think somebody's going to eventually just be like, that's inappropriate and you shouldn't talk. You're degrading.
Everyone's offended. But the thing is, it's intent. Like our intent isn't to belittle or to like have power structures and hold it over to people. We're telling a story. I think we're both pretty progressive, cis white males. Yeah. I happen to be gay. You're pretty straight. Like, I'm pretty sure we're, you know what I mean? It's all about intent. You can like say a joke. If you don't have hate in your heart, it's just a lighthearted joke. Yeah. But if you're a misogynist, you make women jokes all the time, chances are you're going to be offensive.
Yeah, I think intent is true. Like I think like you look at somebody like Bill Burr who makes, offensive jokes. His joke is the reason he's making them is because one, he's coming at it from a way that's really funny, and two, he's making fun of the fact that you're offended by the joke that he's making. He doesn't mean anything he says. He's not coming at it a place where like my favorite one is he goes, I hate it when people say there's no reason to hit a woman. I can think of 5. That's funny.
I laugh immediately. It's fucking hysterical. It's like not because you want to hit a woman, just because that he said like that's just fucking funny. Like,
because people are absurd when they say you should never do anything, and I go, well, there's a reason for everything. It's not that I agree with it or that they were correct, but I can understand that there's a reason for everything.
Yeah. And God bless the comedians, man. Like, and it really does take like a special person and they're so smart. And like comedy, I mean, I feel like it's finally getting its comeuppance. But yeah, you have to really understand like popular culture and then kind of like put it on its head in like a weird sociological, like psychologically, like fucked up way. And because it just draws it again, it's like that mirror, but like, the mirror has a mustache on it.
I mean, look, I think that's like, I think we could learn a lot from comedians and the way they see the world, especially in our industry, because I mean, there's days where you have to find the humor in the shit you just went through, that if you can't, you're going to really go down some dark holes. And I think, that's why you see so many like server memes and restaurant meme, but Instagram pages nowadays, because it's just like you have to poke fun of what we do, and what we do is we deal with people at their best, and we deal with people at their absolute worst. And it's like, I always say it takes a certain type of person to do this job and work in this industry. And
Yeah.
part of that's being really humble and understanding that like a lot of the shit isn't personal, even though it feels like an attack. And
it's never, it's really about you. No, it's about them wanting control. And then I like to disarm things with comedy a lot. When I get angry, that just never happens. It's just, you know, a hammer comes out of my mouth, but like and then it works. Like you just diffuse things with comedy. You get them with a question or whatever. I put out so many fires that way, and so many of my mistakes because I'm snappy and
yeah. I mean, that's the way to do it. I've turned tables around with just humor and
absolutely
and understanding and like, you know, but yeah, you have to laugh, man. There's shit nights. And I'll get into it in some other shows, but like there's been just like moments where you just want to like, okay, everyone go fuck themselves. I'm out of here.
I've done it. I've walked out of several jobs where I've just like thrown my book and I'm like, fuck this, fuck you, like bye. But that was when I was a bit younger, and I mean, that was right before I left Michigan too. So I was just like unhappy, but like I keep getting like, you know, stuck with these owners, whether I'm managing or whatever, who just like, I don't know if they've ever owned or managed anything in their life. And like they're giving away all the liquor, all the food, yelling out verbal orders. I'm like, bro, your business is going to fail. And then lo and behold, 6 months later, I looked and their business failed. But yeah.
Yep.
So many stories.
So many. Well, I want to thank you, Doug, for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Give us a quick shout out where people are interested in following you. You said you're going to get, you know, you've been doing music and you've been putting some stuff online. Where can people follow you and keep in touch?
I have a SoundCloud. Well, Instagram is the best, at Douglas Scott Cameron, just my full name. Mm-hmm. But I do have a SoundCloud. I just don't know my link for that right now. And it might be, but yeah, Instagram, like it has like all of my shit there. Sure. And then, yeah, I'll put a link to like the SoundCloud and stuff, but I don't have like too many mixes up. There's just some like mashups, but I'm super happy with it. Yeah. Just being able to like control the music is just so cool. But yeah, but Instagram at Douglas Scott Cameron is where I'm at usually.
All right. Well, thank you again. Everyone go follow Doug on Instagram. And that's it. That's another episode in the bag of Corner Memoirs of the Service Industry. My name has been Eric. Thank you, Doug, again for joining us. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like, thumbs up, hit that button, as they say. Give us a follow, leave some comments, subscribe, do all that stuff. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Go find us there. Leave us a comment. Helps the show a lot. And that's it, guys. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
Just send me a link and I'll put it on my social media. Bye.
You got it.